We welcome you, and we're glad you're all here. It's an honor to stand here and be able to speak to you. And I want to thank Joyce for all of her work and everything. We appreciate it. We're glad to be a part of this team down here. And Bob in absentia right now. He's a strong supporter of ours, and we do everything we can to work with him. So we appreciate that. So. Anyway, we'll get to going. My job today, to put it in a term of, I'm here to set the table, so to speak, and I'm kind of setting up the groundwork for it. And Tom's going to come along with the meat and potatoes later. So anyway, what I'm trying to let y'all know is that we've been working at this ranch down at Dryden, Texas. It's 3.5 hours from here. And we've been there for 3.5 years. We started with this man in 2022 in January or so, and we didn't expect it to be this long, and we didn't expect to find everything that we found. And anyway, the owner is out of El Paso. His name is Thad Steele. He's the largest employer in the city of El Paso, about 7,000 different employees. So we've gotten to know him really well. We've been there multiple times all year long for 3.5 years. And we go there, stay, come in on Thursdays, come out on Sundays. And we work during the cool of the day, and we're covering a lot of ground. So one of the things that we did with Thad when we first met him, he didn't know us, and we didn't know him too well. So we basically let him know that we were interested in only the military. There's a military site there where the soldiers out of Del Rio, out of Fort Clark, but Fort Clark, they would come over there, and this was one of their camping areas over a long period of time. And this is where they went to interdict the Comanches and those people that were robbing and stealing in either Mexico or back in the States. So, and we told him that along the way that we were not interested in doing anything with the pictographs. And that was the biggest joke in the whole deal at this point, is that now in the last 9 months or so, we've got a little longer than that. In the last year, we've gotten into the pictograph part of it, and it's really been a very, very unusual thing that's happened. And we brought in people that were actually ancestors, descendants of the Jumanos, and they were looking at the artwork on the wall up there, and they were seeing it through their eyes, and I'm seeing it through my European ancestry eyes. And I don't see it anywhere near like what they do. So they have opened the door for us. And when they came to look at this stuff, they saw a certain part of it up there that looked right to them, and it's part of their heritage, and they recognized it immediately. And we brought in the Lipan Apache, and they did the same thing. And all of a sudden, the doors started opening on this pictograph thing. And I'm going to shut it down at this point and let Tom get into it, because this is where we're just finishing this report here on the pictographs involving the Lady in Blue, which none of us realized was there until the Jumanos came along and said they were just blown away by what they saw, because that was an actual recording of what their ancestors put on the wall of the Lady in Blue with their experience with her. So I'm going to sit down and let Tom get going, because this is what you want to hear. We thank you, and we are glad you're all here. Thank you.
So to let you know what we're going to be talking about here, I'm going to give you a brief thing here that shows you how we're going to go about this. Since not many people know about Meyers Spring, we're going to give you a little bit of information about that. Then the story of the Lady in Blue, for some of you people know it very well, but some don't. So we're going to give you the background, the story of the Lady in Blue. And then we'll talk about the Jumano people, which in this case were the Trans-Pecos Jumano. There were Jumano in many different areas, but this is specifically about the Trans-Pecos Jumano. We're mainly migratory buffalo hunters, and originally we're from down in Mexico on the eastern area of the Rio Grande, rather than the western area that most people know about. Then we'll talk about how it all comes together with the pictograph and show you piece by piece of the story and how it comes out with the help of our cultural leader of the Jumano, who helped us interpret this properly. First, what is Meyers Spring? Where is Meyers Spring? It's down by Dryden, not too far from the Rio Grande. And this is a picture here of overlooking it from satellite imagery. Down in this area is where the pictographs are. Here you can see where it is in Texas. It's very far away from everything. But it is also on a route that the Jumano and the Apache used for their migrations north and south, coming up from Mexico, mainly to go up and do their buffalo hunting. This is the area of the pictograph here. The wall is behind those trees there. And this is looking at the wall from two different angles. The most famous thing on the wall is the vulture here, the turkey vulture. That is also the logo of the ranch on their gate and everything when they come in. Many of the different pictographs, the wall is 100 feet long, and many different stories on the wall. This goes back for thousands of years, and they continue to put stories on top of each other. The ancient, archaic type of stories that were originally put on the wall have actually been disappeared, and the newer stories of the historic period have then been laid on top of them. There's only a few of the archaic, but we know that it goes back that far because there are campsites and shelters around the area where we have found points that go back 4,000 to 5,000 years. So we know that this site has been used in the migration route for all of that time. Everybody knew about it. It was really the only way to get from the area of what we know to be Del Rio up to the area of the Upper Pecos, which is where the buffalo hunting took place. We have 3 reports now on the pictographs. The first one was the Conquistador report, and this also involves the Jumano. This was considered to be for many, many years to be probably an Indian, but we have been able to determine piece by piece, everything on this picture is actually the Indians' interpretation of the conquistadors. And it goes all the way back to Antonio de Espejo and his time that he first encountered the Jumano Indians. So they were coming down from their buffalo hunts, and they were stopping at this location and telling these stories that they thought needed to be memorialized. The second story we put out was this one here, and this is the Apache crown dancer. So the Apache and the Jumano were living essentially side by side. And they were friendly with each other at this time. This is before the Europeans ever came, before the Spanish in Mexico. And they both were using this migration route. And this is the story that we've been able to determine and interpret using the Apache themselves, the Lipan Apache, Chief Richard down in Brackettville right now, and Two Bears, and their family history and culture has been able to show us what this is. And this is the crown dance that is still done today by the Apache, mostly the Mescalero Apache up in New Mexico now. And then, of course, we've got the story we're going to talk about today. And we want you to know that this site has been important for a long time. It is on the National Register of Historic Places. It's been that way since 1972. And it is now considered, and has been considered, but now especially since the cultural indigenous people have been there now, they consider it sacred land. This is where they were essentially living back in that period of time. So you can see they were all neighbors. The Mescalero Apache were also down there. They ended up in New Mexico, as we all know, but that was their origination point, was in Mexico there. This area here shows the region that the Jumano covered during that period of time. So they had a very large area that they covered. They had a nation of at least 10,000 at the time that covered all through the region. And of course, here in San Angelo, there was a large part of that population was here along the creeks and the river. So who were the Jumano? Well, they were fair-skinned Indian in comparison with, for example, the Apache. The men cut their hair like you see here in bowl shape. And a unique part of their way that they had their hair was they put them in a loop in the middle, right here. And that's going to be important here for part of this pictograph interpretation. So we wanted to highlight that to you. They were mobile. They were gather hunters. The Trans-Pecos region, as I said, coming from Mexico up to the Upper Pecos area mostly. And then they went across into this area here and started to settle later on into this area of San Angelo and the Concho River. They tattooed their bodies, so it was very easy to determine that they were Jumano when the Spanish were encountering them. And as I said, they followed the buffalo herds. It was their main source at the time. They were the first buffalo hunters. And it was before horses. You can see they used their pack dogs to help them on their mobile transition to different areas. They went as far as Louisiana, as far as into Oklahoma, even a little bit farther north than that, and well into New Mexico in their trading. So that was their main thing, was trading. They were friendly with everybody. This is the route I was talking about. And you can see here we start in Del Rio. And the reason that this is so important is because it's clear water springs, and they're all within about 2 walking days distance from each other. And it's about the only way you can get from the Del Rio area up through the Pecos area and get into the North Pecos area and still continue to arrive at clean water sources. So you've got Del Rio, San Felipe Creek, then you've got Seminole Canyon Creek, Meyers Spring, Independence Creek, which is still to this day running a beautiful creek, like 5,000 gallons a minute to this day. It's now a conservancy. And then Live Oak Creek, and then they were into the Upper Pecos region of the plains. Now we get into the Lady in Blue story. In 1623, 12 of the Jumano showed up at the Mission Augustine in the Isleta Pueblo. This is the oldest picture I was able to find of the Pueblo there. And they were asking the missionaries if they could come back to their country to continue teaching for their Christian education. The Spanish priests had never been in Texas. So they're looking at them saying, how do you even know about Christ? How do you know any of this? And they said, well, the lady in blue, the white-skinned lady in blue, would come out of the sky and teach us about Christ. And they said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't have the people to go back to Texas now anyway. We're pretty wrapped up here in Mexico. So they turned it down. They described her cloak, which is obviously the name, is the color of the sky. That's how they explained it. And that's how it became the Lady in Blue. And the cloak of the convent is the blue cloak. So they described that, and the Fray de Salas, he couldn't understand it, and they returned, but they kept coming back. Every single year they came back, and they were denied every single year for 5 years. What they didn't know was at the time, Maria Cornell de Arana was at the Order of the Immaculate Conception, and she was reporting to her leadership, I'll call them the leadership, that she was having these mystic raptures where she was traveling to faraway lands and she was meeting with the indigenous people and she was teaching them about Christ. And she reported these journeys, and she did it 4 monthly trips, 4 trips a month, and she could converse in their language. She guided the Indians on making crosses, how to do places of worship, and taught them how to make rosaries, for example. And it was her urging, when she was conversing with them, that they would go back every year and request that the Spanish priests come and continue their teaching. What we're talking about here, and what is well known now, is that this is called bilocation. And extremely psychic people to this day are able to bilocate. And bilocation is a way, you might have heard of astral projection. This is another level above astral projection. Because astral projection, you're able to move your conscious out into another dimension and move around our reality. But in bilocation, you're taking another level, and it continues to take a physical form that you can move through our reality in. And this is more commonly known now than most people realize. Many people have done it. There are actually 5 other priests that are documented as saints now that have bilocated in the same manner. So this is not an unusual thing, but it's not a well-known thing either. It's called the etheric body, and this is the levels of the aura of the body, and this is the etheric body that it gives you the ability to do bilocation. Her descriptions were so detailed when she would describe them that they had to figure out what was going on here. So the Franciscan Minister General met with her, and then he had a letter sent to Mexico to find out if there was any documentation or somebody could validate these stories. The Archbishop sent an inquiry to New Mexico following the letter up, and they sent an entire caravan of 30 priests, military escorts, arriving in New Mexico in 1629. At this time, the Jumano were on their annual trek again, and they arrived 20 days after the expedition arrived from Mexico. And this time they had 50 of their members, and of course the lady in blue had encouraged them to go again and told them, this is the time. There is a caravan that has arrived from Mexico. You need to go meet with them. So in that was the emissary, Father Perea, and he was excited when the Indians showed up. He decided he wanted to return with them and find out what is going on here, and kind of validate it. So he took 2 other priests and 3 soldiers, and off they went to what is now Texas. What they didn't know is that the Jumano, this was July now, the Jumano had a kind of an argument going on at the time. They were running out of food. Their animal resources were becoming, it wasn't a good time of year. And they were arguing amongst themselves, we have to move. We have to move to go for the buffalo. And one side was saying we have to go, the other side was saying, wait a minute, we sent that delegation, they don't even know where we go if we go somewhere. And they said, no, we have to go. So they took off and went north, looking for the buffalo grounds for the new hunting. The priest and the 50-man delegation were heading back, and they were guided back to northern Texas rather than back down to where they originally started from. They were being guided by the lady in blue. The Indians were. She provided guidance to the large mass that had moved north on building an altar and setting up crosses for the reception of the priests that she said were coming. The meeting took place, and this is all in Spanish records, and this is all in the Vatican, 300 miles, which they called 100 leagues east of the Isleto Pueblo. If you go on Google Earth, go 300 miles east, where you end up is Caprock Canyon State Park. And this is an overview of the Canyon State Park entrance. And this is where the water comes through. And there are 2 archaeological buffalo jumps known now out in the Caprock Canyon. This was a well-known for millennia place for hunting buffalo. And this is a very large open area that could handle, because every one of the Jumano came together, and they ended up being about 10,000 Indians at this one place. This is one of the buffalo jumps type of thing. There is actually an archaeological dig going on right now in Caprock Canyon for the second buffalo jump. And we've actually been to the first buffalo jump, which turns out to be about right at this location here. And this is now a reservoir, but it was a good running stream at the time. As they neared the location, coming from New Mexico, a procession of Indians came out to meet them, carrying large crosses, 2 large crosses. And the priests were just stunned. They didn't even understand how they knew they were coming, and they didn't understand how they knew to make crosses, for example. Then they built arbors and put the crosses up, and they came in and they knew how to genuflect. They were kissing their crucifixes. They gave Mass twice a day, every day, and it was maximum attendance the entire time. More Indian tribes started coming in, telling them, the lady in blue told us to come here and see you. They didn't understand any of it. After 2 weeks, they had to get back to give their report, mostly because their report had to go all the way back to Spain. And they decided, okay, we've got to leave. On the last day, they were getting ready to leave, and the Indians started coming up en masse with the sick and the lame and the blind, and they were saying, before you leave, you need to make all of our sick people well. And the priests were stunned. They didn't understand what was going on, and they had never healed the sick. And they said, well, we don't really heal the sick, but what we'll do is we'll here you can see they would preach the Gospel of Luke, and they would go over each one, give them the sign of the cross. Every single Indian was made well. The priests didn't even understand how it happened, but every single Indian was made well. 200 of them. So the report was sent back to Spain, and Father Benavides took it personally. Well, he hand-carried it back, and he was sent to describe the experiences and talk to Sor Maria, and she described in detail to him all of these things to make him understand. The tattoos, the clothing. Their captain even knew how he lost his eye in battle. The physical descriptions of the missionaries that were there during that time. She's the one who taught the Indians how to make the crosses, the altars, and everything that they experienced there. And he left with no doubt. There's no doubt that this is real. He wrote a report. His first report was his descriptions of everything that had happened in Texas, New Mexico. And this second report, after he spoke with her, is this report here, which is in the Vatican. It was the memorial of 1634. This is the Spanish, and I actually had it translated up there. So she did not continue her travels across, and she stopped in 1631. She was actually, she died in 1665 at the age of 63. She was put in a glass coffin in the convent. 360 years has gone by, and to this day, her body has never deteriorated. It was just a normal glass coffin. There was nothing special about it. And this is an actual picture of her in the coffin. Her body has never, ever deteriorated. The scientists cannot figure out how this is even possible. The coffin has been opened twice, once in 1909, once in 1989. Both examinations came up scientifically, medically. There was no deterioration at all. She was bestowed by the Vatican the title of Venerable or Servant of God. There has been an effort for a very long time to have her canonized. It has stalled off several different times. There is still an effort to this day trying to convince the Vatican to canonize her into sainthood. So now we talk about the picture story on the wall. The picture story covers 20-foot section of the wall, and it tells the story that I just told you of the 1629 meeting as the friar priests came into North Texas to what is now Caprock Canyon State Park. Bill Martinez Acosta, we've been trying to get him down there for 3 years to see this because we had a very strong feeling that this was Jumano Christian, but we didn't understand until he stood there with me and said, "Oh my God, this is the story of the Lady in Blue," as I just told it. And it's the only story that's ever been written down from the side of the Jumano. We have all the Spanish documentation, we have oral history, but this is the only thing that's ever been found actually documenting it on something. And they didn't have paper and pen back then, the Indians. This is the way that they documented their stories. This is Bill Acosta at the very day, the very moment that he and I stood there and interpreted the entire story. The stick figures are representing the procession as they came out to meet the priests as they were coming from New Mexico with the two crosses. And this is the two crosses, one here and one here. The ones here are considered in the Jumano culture to be ward captains or our spiritual leaders. And that is why they have these on their head. The other ones are most likely different chief of the different villages and regions around the area because they didn't all live in the same place. They congregated in this one place for this one event, but they were spread out all over what is now Texas. The two crosses are those same ones that are referred to in the report. They have two poles, and it's hard to see them now because it's starting to get washed away. This is actually what it looks like visually now, and this is a water line when the floods come through. And this is a technique called D-stretch used in archaeological pictograph so that you can see things that are starting to fade away. And here you can see the poles on each one of the crosses that they were holding up as they were walking the procession. Between the crosses, there are two figures, and that's these here, that are totally different than the stick figures. These are the soldiers that were accompanying the procession coming from New Mexico. This line here, if you look really closely, and this one very, very small here is a little stick figure again. That indicates that that line is the route of travel coming from New Mexico. And then this circle is indicating the location where they were to arrive, which I told you is Caprock Canyon, the big open area there. Between the soldiers is the spirit of the Lady in Blue, depicted by them. And that is this right here. This is her in her spirit form. So we'll look at it closer. You can see that, you can see her head right here. It has a darkened top, and over here, that is actually white paint. So they actually purposely painted white to her front here so that it indicated the gimp of her outfit there. In the D-stretch, you can see how they intended to have lights shining out as if spirit form. So this is, and it's right in the middle of the entire picture story. The procession met the expedition, guided them to the area, and then they set up their crosses, as I said. Then the priests began to give Mass. I told you every day. This is the priest giving Mass in his liturgical vestment. This line right here coming out is now understood to be something called speech breath. And it's seen in many of the different pictographs in the Lower Pecos region. It is indicating sound, speech, or if it's an animal, it's the animal sound. For example, you'll have lions with the speech breath coming out and they're roaring, for example. But this is indicating that he is speaking, giving Mass. This circle here has been spalled off by somebody did target practice on this. We think it's in the after 1935 at least. But the circle, as interpreted by Bill Acosta, is the creator or the sacred circle. And this is indicating that the priest is giving Mass and the creator is part of overseeing the Mass. And to give you an indication of how prevalent that is, this type of a circle, the indigenous people have it all over the West. We just haven't really seen it as much until you understand their culture. Here is a good example at the Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming that is very similar in nature. And here are more examples as to help you understand that. Here is one made of people. So to this day, this sacred circle is the meaning of God the Creator to the indigenous people. The final part of the pictograph is the dancing, which is one of the most famous parts of the pictograph from this ranch. And this dancing is the dance that they had after the healing that I talked about, where 200 of their people had been made well. And they have the dancing drums here, and here you can see those little hair flips up on the top of their heads, which makes them unique. And you see the friar in his outfit watching the dancing. And to this day, the exact same type of thing is done by the Jumano in their religious ceremonies. And you can see these examples of the drumming and the processions that they are reenacting this entire event in their processions. These are all in New Mexico. This drumming, he actually brought the drum down and did blessings while we were there, and did the drumming and the song of the Jumano and their sacred songs. And here you can see that flip of the hair. They were given audience by the Pope in 2023. The Jumano delegation and the Lady in Blue memorialized by the Vatican. Here you can see, this is Bill Acosta. This is the Jumano delegation from Texas. And he is trying to get back to the Vatican with the new Pope. And we're hoping that this information can be added to the Vatican archives, and he is looking to continue with the effort to have her canonized. So we're hoping that is going to be helpful in his effort to get back to the Vatican and give this information to them and see if they could continue on with the process of canonization. So on our website, we have the full report. You can download it from our website. Everything on our website is downloadable. It's all in PDF form, and it's the entire description story, as well as the other two that I mentioned, the Apache Crown Dancer and the Conquistador, which is now the logo to our organization. And that is the story of the Lady in Blue in Meyers Spring. So I'll take any questions.
Good job, Tom.
Any questions? Yes?
Was there more than one artist working at a time, or was there just one designated person that wrote the story for that?
On the wall? There's no way to know. But we know that the pigments are, in that particular story period, is all the same. So maybe more than one person doing it, but it all was probably done at one time. Yeah. Of course, the church had to be a different time because of the time frame, right? And you could see the differences in some of the pigments on the wall from the Indian stories of different things, because Indians would put up animal hunts, for example, have a successful hunt. They would memorialize it. So there's a lot of that on the wall too. So this is just one piece. Yeah.
Are the pictographs that paint rock part of this or not?
I'm sorry?
Pictographs that at paint rock.
Oh, at Paint Rock. No.
I don't think so.
I've been to Paint Rock many times. We actually did some work out there years back, and I have been there during the solstice and the equinox. Paint Rock is pretty much archaic period, much farther back, right? It's amazing in the astronomical aspects that they put together of the solstice and equinox periods. But there's no way that we can be sure or tie that to specifically the Jumano ancestors. Yeah.
What did they use for the pigments? And then in the beginning of that video, I saw what kind of appeared to be Latin characters. Did I see that correctly?
What kind of characters?
They looked like Latin letters, like I saw like letters that kind of looked like a Latin alphabet.
I don't know of any Latin characters, no. But the pigment is red ochre,
Yeah.
mixed with, usually mixed with animal fat, water, red ochre, mineral. There's many different ways to do it, but that's at least the way that's for most of this red type of drawing. If anybody knew Kay Campbell, she would always give instructions on how to make it. She would make it in the bowl for you and show you how to do it. It's the same technique. It's red ochre, yeah. Any other, yeah?
This is all available on your website.
Yes. Everything is on our website. You can get the going out the door. You can pick up thing that'll get you to the website, or you can, if you have your phone, you can get the QR code. We're trying to keep it modernized too for the phone people. Yeah, everything we do is available. Everything we do on our work is free of charge. You know, it's all voluntary.
Is this a visit, is this site, you're able to visit the site, or is it?
The site is on private property.
Oh, okay.
It is, they asked us to come in, as CA mentioned, originally to try to understand the military camp. The military camp was from Fort Clark. It was a forward operating base. And we started off, the known territory or area was about 5 acres. And the reason we've been there for so long is it just kept expanding. We kept finding more stuff, and we're out to over 200 acres now of understanding just the military stuff alone. But as we went there every time, we would always go down to see the pictographs, you know, because we had the availability. And as we were down there, we would talk about them, and then suddenly things just started showing up to us and saying, wait a minute, you know, that's not an Indian. He's got a matchlock gun in his hand, for example. He's got a Morian hat. And so we started researching all of that. And then the Apache Crown Dancer was the second report. And that's very, very obvious. So we did research and brought the Apache in. And then, as I said, we've been trying to get Bill Acosta to that site for 3 years, and we just couldn't get synced up on schedules and stuff. So it wasn't until May, just this last May, that we were able to bring him in, and all of this came about. Yes, back in the back.
What's the hesitation to canonize the lady in blue with this?
Yeah, I thought I was going to get that question. I'm not going to get into the politics of the Catholic religion too much, but I'll just say one thing. There's 5 saints that also were known to bilocate and was documented. There has always been something in the Catholic religion that is male dominated. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. All right, next question. I'll move on from that. I don't want to go any deeper than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
What if the handprints made on the wall?
The handprints were, I don't think that they were related to the Jumano, but they could be. There's just no way to know for sure. But we see them in many of the different sites in the Lower Pecos region. There's theories. There's no way to know exactly what it is. I'll give you my theory, and I believe that it was as they would come through each one of these sites on their annual treks as a group, they would put their handprint, somebody in the village, maybe the leader or somebody in the village would put the handprint. This is our 4th time coming through, for example, maybe on a yearly trek or something like that. That's my theory. There's several others. But there is absolutely no way to be sure because these were done so long ago, there's no historical recollection that, even orally, that goes back that far. Yeah?
On viewing this in relation to his question, how about the tours? How could he get involved in a tour?
Getting what?
In a tour.
In a tour, yeah, okay. So the tour, I forgot to tell you about this. There are only 2 groups that give tours officially into Meyers Spring Ranch. One is the Whitty Museum in San Antonio that sponsors the Rock Art Association, right? And you can go to the Whitty Museum website, and they'll have lists of their tour treks and schedules and all of that. The other one is Shumla, which is the main archaeological research education center for the Lower Pecos region, and they're out of Comstock, Texas, and they have done most of the other, if not all the other sites throughout the entire Pecos region, Lower Pecos region, and they give quite a few tours also. Mostly it's about 2, maybe 3 per year. They split them up in spring and fall because of the heat. It's just bitterly hot down there in the summertime. So you can get on those websites, and if you want to get a tour, we have the ability to invite people ourselves, and members can come with us on our trips. The problem is it's 3 locked gates to get through, and it's a 30-minute drive off the highway through very difficult ranch roads just to get to the ranch itself. So when we go in on a Thursday, and we stay there for 3 days straight, either supporting a tour and doing our own archaeological work, or we might just have a whole plan for 3 days of archaeology work. And he puts us up in cabins that he has for hunting cabins. So it's difficult to get out there. Members we can put out, sometimes when we're going out, we'll put out to the membership. But you have to adhere to these kind of strict schedules and ways to get in and out. We can't be taking everybody in and out because it's a 30-minute drive one way just to get to the highway through 3 gates. So we don't have the time to do that. So we go in one time, go out one time. So, but the tours are available. Yeah. There's, you can look up, if you look up by location and you look up priests, Catholic priests, you will find the list of all the priests that have been made saints and the story behind how those priests were involved in bilocation. So it's actually a very common thing. It just isn't spoken about very often, which kind of goes along with the same thing. I was there, we were there. But as I said, I have never come across anybody who has been able to, without a doubt, say, we have an oral history that says that this is what they were doing. But these handprints are found all through these sites throughout the Lower Pecos region. Right, so it had something to do with the movement being at the site. I was here. Yeah.
Where did you say that her body is?
It's still in the convent. In the convent. And I'm not.
Which convent? Where
Oh, yeah, of Immaculate Conception in Spain. Yeah. It's still there, and people can go there to visit it. Many people go there to visit, of course. Bill Acosta, being one of the Jumano, actually has a piece of her blue cloak that was given to him while he visited there as a memorial, a little tiny piece of her cloak. So yes, you can visit if you go to Spain and go to the Convent of the Immaculate Conception. All right, thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it.